We're going to go ahead and get this meeting started. Welcome to Lemoore City Council. Welcome to Lemoore City Council special meeting located at 435 C Street. This is a special meeting agenda. Please silence all electronic devices as a courtesy to those in attendance. Thank you. If you could please stand for the invocation by Chaplain Davis of Mount Zion Church and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman David Orr.
Amen. With bowed heads, oh God, we thank you and we praise you, oh God. We ask you, oh God, to bless each and everyone here in this meeting, oh God. We ask you, oh God, to let your will be done in this meeting. And oh God, we pray for your will to be done. And we do give you glory, honor, and all of the praise, oh God. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Flag salute. Ready? Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Roll call, Marissa.
Councilmember Lyons. Councilmember Garza.
Here.
Councilmember Orth.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Gornick.
Here.
And Mayor Matthews.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda approval, additions and or deletions? There's none. We're going to go ahead and move on to the study session. 1-1, discussion and direction regarding option of privatization of the refuse division. Mr. Olson.
Hey, good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you all for coming this evening. Wanted to get everyone together and talk about what we've been looking at as far as privatizing the refuse services. I will be going over the blue handout that was in the back of the room. That'll be what we're presenting tonight. And then we have staff to answer any questions that may come up. We also have Mid-Valley here to answer any questions that may be up. So we'll go over this and then we'll get rolling. So a few months back, I took a study session to council about the state of the general fund. So one of the things staff and I have been working on is trying to find ways to bring in some revenues into the general fund. One of the options was to privatize refuse. I believe it's California, about 96% of all your refuse is already privately transported, collected. About 4% is still done in-house. So I'm going to move right on. That being said, this was an opportunity for what myself and staff felt was a way to increase service to our residents, limit the impact to our employees, and then overall help support the general fund in future years. So if you've got your sheet, and I'll go over it, but if we go privatization, we will have 3-can weekly pickup beginning on March 1st, 2024, give or take a week or two. But that means that we would no longer be going back and forth between blue and green. All 3 cans will get picked up every week. We also get SB 1383 compliance. The privatization will take care of a majority of the 1383 needs. The city will still have to do a couple reporting things, but we'll be assisted in that. We'll be the signatures and send them off. They're also offering 2 cleanup days in Lemoore. Currently, we get the coupons and you get that week and you got to take all your stuff out to KWRA and Highway 43. What they would be doing in the future then would be strategically locating roll-offs or bins throughout town. Twice a year, you could go dump your household items and kind of do your cleanups, and then they would take that off at no charge. One in the fall and one in the spring. Also would be bringing back the used oil disposal program, which the city used to have. We currently do not because we were having issues with compliance and people dumping things other than oil in there. Mattress disposal program helps keep people from illegally dumping mattresses out on the county and in the outskirts of our town. And also cardboard recycling. The city currently offers cardboard recycling the 3rd week of every month over at the yard there on Cinnamon Drive. So that would come back in full force. Our current rate study will remain in effect through June of 2025. So I don't know if most of you remember, anytime the city wants to raise rates for services and enterprise fund, we have to do what's called a 218 hearing. So we did a 218 hearing back several years, and we did a makeup so we could replace our fleet and get catch up to rate increases. And then we added a 3% annual inflator to what we can charge up until 2024. And then in 25, we're protected. In the contract, Mid-Valley has a cap. They can never increase the price of refuse by more than 5% in a given year on that. But typically, if we need a rate increase, it's based off the CPI. And that's pretty standard for a lot of enterprise funds. Usually when you go out for a 218, if you pass it with that annual inflator based on a CPI, you never have to go back to a 218 hearing again. But if we do, for the next time, if the city does have to pass on a rate increase to its residents, it will actually be a 218 hearing. The residents of our town would have to vote on it. So we can't just tell you we're raising your rates. It will be a 218 and a vote. On that portion of it, the one part of this, and this is where it helps the general fund, they will give the city of Lemoore a 15% franchise fee. So for every dollar collected in refuse, the city gets 15% back to the general fund. That's approximately $665,000 every year. So the equivalent of about $66.5 million worth of retail to make up that same kind of money to the general fund. And then the franchise awards fee, if we go to privatization when we sign onto the contract, there'll be about $600,000 to $800,000. That's a one-time payment to the general fund, along with 1.7 million in assets that they'll be buying off the city that would remain in the enterprise fund to pay for future commitments through the KWRA and some of the old disposal sites and stuff we have. We still have an obligation to keep up on some of those things. That's most of it from a serviceability standpoint. Now, we do have 12 refuse employees. All employees will be offered comparable positions with Mid-Valley in the roles they're currently in. They offer competitive wage and benefit packages. Their retirement is 4% 401k match program. They are not CalPERS. So currently everybody in refuse is a CalPERS pension. They would no longer, if they opted to go with Mid-Valley, they would stop getting their years of credit in CalPERS and they would roll into a traditional retirement plan. Their Mid-Valley's daily operations will continue to operate the current location. They're looking at leasing back space to leave the trucks that currently service Lemoore in Lemoore. So the employees they do bring on have the same drive to Lemoore, service Lemoore area. There is no intent on sending our drivers out and about. They did, however, say that there's other options if they'd like to get into different things in the refuse instead of just being on a truck picking up bins or trash. They have transfer trucks that run around the valley. They have county routes, they have roll-off routes and things of that. So there's definitely some opportunities for any individual to grow within that company if they go over. They're also interested in maybe a fleet services agreement for some of the servicing of their trucks to use space at the city to keep kind of the stuff we're already doing in our own fleet to keep that local. And then employees have the option to remain with the city up to a point. So there's 4 positions we currently have held vacant that if people out of the 12 did not want to go over to Mid-Valley, they could bid out and try to take some of those open positions. And that doesn't affect any persons. There's also, if with seniority, they can go into positions and displace other people potentially that have less seniority, but we won't know the impact or the effects on that till our refuse employees give us their intent and what they're going to do. So that I can speak broadly about it, but I won't know the impact until we know how many guys want to stay, how many guys want to go. And those are the kind of the facts, or to kind of offset what you're hearing on social media and things like that. But that is what we're here to discuss this evening. And so at this point, we can go, Patty, we can ask, or Mayor, we can ask council questions first or open it to public. It's really up to you.
Council, do you have any questions?
I'd like to hear from the
I was
public.
gonna say,
All right, we'll go ahead and
them first.
open it up for public comment. I just want to remind everyone that there's a 3-minute time limit for public comment. So if anybody would like to speak, go ahead and approach the podium.
Hello, Susie Van Willows from 892 Cedar Lane. My question is, are the bins going to be the same size that we currently have? Do we know?
My understanding. Yes, they're gonna buy all those bins that we currently have and the new ones we've purchased, so it'll be the same style, same type bin that we currently have.
And then my other question is, when we switched to every other week for the blue and the green, we had the option to get a second can at no charge. For those of us that may have a lot of recyclables or a lot of green waste. And then eventually we started getting charged for that. So if we return our extra cans, because once a week works perfectly for my family, will we see that reflected in our bills?
I'll have to get back to the public on that and post something.
Okay.
Maybe we'll do like a follow-up on some of these questions we can answer tonight. That is one thing I haven't discussed
have
with
one
Mid
more
Valley.
question.
I don't know if anybody else on staff has. Oh, they have. So if we could, I'll let Mid Valley answer that, or here comes Michelle to answer that.
Great, thank you.
Did you say you had one more question?
Oh, yeah, sorry. On the used oil mattress and cardboard programs, are those fee-based or is it
It's
free?
included in your monthly service.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, so the question regarding the cost for the extra cans. Currently, you can get a second can at no charge in our current rate study. It's the third can that you pay for. So under this agreement with Mid Valley, everybody would get one green, one blue, one black, and or gray at some point. And that's covered under the current rate because it will be dumped weekly. So it's the equivalent of giving you that second can at no charge. So you'll essentially get the same level of service for the same price. Now, if you still need an extra can, that extra can cost or that charge will apply. But for those of you that are going to go to a single can, if you're being charged extra, we would make that adjustment on your bill. Okay, so the question from the public was how much is the refuse cost per month? I don't actually know that answer, but somebody here might.
It's if you have a 3-can 90, it's $32 and it will be, no, it's $32.67 a month.
Good evening, Dave Brown, 89 Devon Drive, Lemoore. Got a question. The 15% franchise fee. That's based upon the anticipated agreement that would be effective through June 2025, correct? Because it's based upon your contract's only good for so long. So if there's approximately $665,000 annual, that's not, or is that? That's not until infinity, as long as we stay with the contractor. That's only based upon through June 2025. If there's a new agreement made at that point in time, that's negotiable. Is that
No, the 15% franchise is in perpetuity.
perpetuity? So that's in the initial contract. It states further contracts throughout for the next 20 years or into year 9999 if we decide to stay there with them. That agreement is in that contract and they have to abide by that agreement.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. So you asked about the cans. The CalPERS. Curious, I'm not an employee, but the employee still has a choice of staying in CalPERS, even though they leave the organization, because I know past city employees, I don't want to give their name, they went to work out at the Navy base, and he kept his CalPERS, even though he left the city of Lemoore. So it might be something that even though they're, if this did go through, they don't have, to give up CalPERS. They just roll into the 401k plan and proceed forth.
Yes, correct. What I meant by they will no longer be enrolled in CalPERS will be their time that they're getting
Okay.
towards pension will stop.
Okay.
And then they would transition in, but they still have all their service credits and the monies that are in their CalPERS account stays with them, yes.
Cool.
And they're eligible to use that when they get to retirement age.
Okay, one other question. You said if maybe I'm a little hard of hearing, so maybe I misunderstood. We're still going to use city equipment, correct? We're still going to use, they're not going to use the proposed contractors' equipment, the refuge trucks. We're going to be using the existing city of Lemoore owned vehicles, correct?
So they'll all start out here. They're gonna buy the assets. So if this goes
Okay.
through, the city won't have any refuse trucks anymore. They will be property of Mid-Valley. But the goal right now is to keep the trucks we have on route, and I do believe they have like 25 new trucks on order.
Okay.
And we have a few on order as well. And if the contract does go through, then they're gonna intercept those trucks when they come in and buy them outright. So the city won't have an obligation to take delivery on those vehicles.
So the city's buying, or they're going to buy enterprise fund vehicles. Those enterprise fund vehicles, because I believe, I'm just curious, because some of them was purchased, if I remember correctly, there was some grant involved on the LPG vehicles. How does that work with the state and refunding the state? If the state wants a refund, if all that money's ours, you know,
The 1.7 is the asset evaluation of everything they're purchasing.
Mhm.
That money stays in the enterprise account. It does
Okay.
not transfer to the general fund.
Copy. Okay.
And because the whole point of those grants is to help with the, environmental
Right.
things, they're not asking for rebates on those dollars.
I was also looking at the monies that was granted when we purchased the vehicles back in 2019, 2017, 2018. I believe there were state monies that came through
Mhm.
to purchase those vehicles, to help us purchase those. Yeah, and that's the monies you're talking about,
Yes,
right?
we get those through KCAC.
Okay. Just want to say, because once we get rid of the vehicles, there's no turning back. Once you pull the trigger on this, we're done. So just, measure 4 times and cut once on this puppy, because I'm telling you what, I don't want to see any employees, lose their positions. I mean, it's tough. It's tough. They do a damn good job, pardon my language. They do a great job.
That's 3 minutes, sir. I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay. I got a question. If there's a question, I'm gonna ask the mayor. If something is stated later on, since this is a study session, does the public have a chance to come back up and ask another question? Or is this fire and forget? Because I know when I was on council, we allowed that. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Not necessarily,
Well, answer it. Answer the question.
if time permits.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mariah Ramirez, 598 East Burlwood Lane in Lemoore. I just had a question about the current employees that are in the refuge department. I know on here it stated that there's 4 open positions and then employees may have the right to bump. I was asking if there was more clarification about wages when an employee jumps. Does the wage go back to beginning, or are they keeping their seniority and their wage?
Okay, so the question is slightly more complicated than that. So the answer is some of the bumping would be a lateral, meaning the job classifications and the salaries are the same in the positions being held vacant and in positions to which employees would be eligible to bump. If it's a lateral bump, the salary stays the same and the seniority would also stay the same. There is, however, a possibility that somebody could have the option to demote, meaning they would bump into a position that makes less money than their current position. That employee, when they exercise their right to bump, takes the fee or the salary of the position that they are bumping into. We do our best to keep them as close to their regular or their standard rate of pay as we can. So in some cases, that might mean that we top them out in the position to which they're bumping to, but that still might be slightly less than what they're making in their current role. Bumping gets very complicated because there are 150 different options depending on who elects to go with Mid-Valley and who elects to bump. So other than answering it that generally, I can't really be more specific. Did that answer your question?
So to clarify, if an employee chooses to bump, it's based on seniority, correct? Correct. So if they choose to bump, they're gonna go by how long they've been here, and then like the lowest person that's been here, that's the spot they get? Is that how?
So to answer her question, yes and no. Bumping rights within the city only allow a person to bump into a position for which they have more seniority in the same department. So an individual that's being displaced from their refuse position can bump to a position in another public works department, which is public works administration, wastewater, and fleet. We've outsourced all of our water positions, so there's nowhere to bump to in that particular division. So it is based on seniority, but only within those divisions of public works. So the question was, can I define the job roles? The answer is yes, generally. So our maintenance workers, our refuse drivers are currently classified as maintenance workers. They are flexibly allocated positions, meaning you're either a maintenance worker 1 or a maintenance worker 2. And that's just based on tenure, like how long you've had the role. So they can, if they choose to stay, they can take one of the vacant maintenance worker positions that we've held vacant. If more people want to stay than there are vacancies, then the bumping would happen. We have maintenance worker positions in facilities maintenance. That's really the only maintenance worker classification outside of refuse. There are, however, wastewater utility worker positions that an individual could bump to. Those are in our wastewater division, but all bumping is also based on establishment of the ability of the individual to meet the minimum qualifications for that position. So you still have to be able to do the job based on minimum quals. Our original analysis is that anybody that's a maintenance worker, in theory, could bump to a wastewater utility worker 1 spot if they so choose.
So if they're maintenance 2 position, they could bump to maintenance 1 and lose those wages. Correct?
So I will answer your question. I just want to caution everybody on these questions specifically to bumping that I'm answering them generally, but it really is individual specific. She's asked, can you bump from a 2 to a 1? Maintenance worker, correct? Because maintenance workers are flexibly allocated 1-2s, you would go over as a 2. Correct.
I also just want to say that I appreciate our refuge workers. I feel like it adds to our small town atmosphere here in Lemoore too. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Sheila Taylor, 885 Cypress. Will the employees get a chance to decide if they want to bump and know what their salary will be before they can accept the job from the other company?
Yes, I believe our personnel guidelines gives them 5 days to let us know their intent to go over or come back. So by that time though, they'll already had offers from Mid-Valley.
I know they have offers from Mid-Valley, but if they want to know what their salary is going to be, if they decide to stay with the city and the bumping process, you'll be able to tell them that in time for them to accept the job from Mid-Valley if it doesn't work out.
Sitting in the back was obviously not a good idea. Okay, so the way that it works is we've already started the meet and confer process with our employees so that they are aware of the opportunities that are going to be presented to them in a general manner. Mid-Valley has met with our employees and described to them the salary and benefit packages that Mid-Valley offers, and that includes their wages, that includes medical benefits, that includes their retirement, that includes paid time off program that they have, and a whole host of other benefits Mid-Valley offers. The employees have already been informed of this, but I will inform the public that if this agreement is passed between the city and Mid-Valley, then each individual employee with the city of Lemoore that works in refuse will have a meeting directly with the Mid-Valley staff. They will be presented with a job offer. An employee has to notify the city of Lemoore within 5 days of receiving their notice to layoff, whether or not they intend to elect to bump or to go to the new agency. We will not issue those notice to layoff letters to any of our employees until after they have already met with Mid-Valley and have their personalized offer in front of them to give them more than the 5 days to decide. So she asked, will we then let them know what their salary will be and the options available to them if they decide to stay? The answer is yes, but until I have the notice of layoff, will ask them to tell HR whether or not they plan to go or whether or not they'd like to stay. Until HR knows how many people are going to elect to leave and how many are going to stay, I won't know their options. So once I have an answer from all of the employees in refuse, then we start working down the list from the person with the most in seniority to the least to give them their options if they then choose to stay. Ms. Taylor, did that answer your question?
Can you come to the microphone?
I guess my concern is that maybe I didn't understand exactly. So once you get your list of everybody that would like to stay, you're going to work that out in enough time that if say, an employee's at the bottom of the list and they have to take a demotion, that they can go back to Mid-Valley and say, okay, I'm ready to go to work for you. Do you know what I mean? I want them to know, I mean, if they give up the job at Mid-Valley and you don't have all the ducks in a row about what's going to happen if they stay, I want to know if those ducks are going to be in a row, so they'll know they have to take a demotion. They can still decide to take the job from Mid-Valley.
Okay, so I don't want to speak on behalf of Mid-Valley, so I might have to have one of them come up. But this is what I will say. I cannot tell an employee exactly what their options are without knowing how many people that have more seniority than them in that division and other public works divisions want to stay before giving an option. So within that 5-day period, before they have to tell us whether or not they'd like to bump, those employees will have already received their offer from Mid-Valley, and then we'll know what their offer is from the city of Lemoore. 5 days is not very long, and I understand that, but the answer is yes, they will have all of the information. At that point, if they choose to no longer stay because the offer is not good, my understanding and my guess is that they would work with Mid-Valley. Because I think the assumption is people are going to go unless they tell me they want to stay. Mid-Valley people, is that?
Michelle, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Is there a way to change that 5 days to 10 days?
It's
I know you cannot, I understand exactly what you're saying. You don't know, and this is the answer. They do not know who's going to bump and who's not going to bump. Well, we could, but I don't know if that's something we want to do in front of everybody. But could we raise that from 5 to 10 days?
So it's actually in our personnel policy that an employee has to tell us within 5 calendar days if they choose to bump or not bump. It would take a revision of those policies in order to do so. Again, we're not issuing the letter until after they've met with Mid-Valley. It's not great, but I have to know who's going to choose to stay before I know which positions are available. So they will know from Mid-Valley what their options are.
Michelle.
That makes sense.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Michelle. Good evening, council members, mayor. Joe Heisler with Mid-Valley Disposal. I'm the CFO, also oversee a lot of the onboarding process. We will certainly allow every employee, we want to bring them all on everyone's going to get an offer. We'll certainly allow them adequate time to work through the city process to be able to make the best decision for them and their families. I mean, ultimately, that's what it comes down to. So our job offer is not going to expire, at midnight on the 6th day. We'll give them plenty of adequate time to make those decisions, and we'd love to bring them all on. So I'll just answer it in that respect.
One more question. I hope I have 1 minute left. What Mr. Brown said, once we give this away, it's not going to come back. So I have a question about what kind, is this a 5-year contract at the beginning or how many years?
So this one it holds our rates till 2025.
Okay, then after 2025, you said it still goes to a vote. If they want to do an increase, it goes to a public vote?
So yeah, the way it works for us, so they can pass an increase onto the city, but the city cannot pass a rate increase onto the residents unless we do a 218 hearing.
Okay.
So that would go out
Okay.
at that time.
Okay, so it still goes to a vote. Okay,
Mhm.
that makes
And I
me feel.
believe it's a 10-year agreement. It's a 10-year initial.
Okay, so what happens if Mid-Valley takes over the contract? This is just a what if question too. And you get hundreds of complaints about Mid-Valley. What kind of control do you have over it in the first 5 to 10 years?
So I've talked to many cities that they currently represent within the valley, and that's just not the case. There's always what ifs, but this is what they do for a living. We have about 115 employees in the state of Lemoore. I believe they have upwards of 350 to 375 employees. They're got, I believe, 21 cities in the valley already. They're going to probably have 90% of the county starting March 1st. So, and they're a multi-generational business with a good reputation.
And I know from the chatter on Facebook, one quick question, Mid-Valley, say you don't get your cans out on time. Do you just wait till next week? Or can you call and have someone pick them up? Okay, so if you make a call, there is a possibility of you coming back and picking up that refuse.
Mhm.
Well, that's good news too. My top priority is just the employees that work there. So if we could do something to give them a chance to know all the information possible for them in order to stay or go, I think I would feel a lot more comfortable.
Thank you.
Robert Davila, 342 West Spring Lane. I just want to know if the public gets to vote on this at all, or is it just up to you guys?
It's up to council to approve the contract.
Okay, so you guys are basically already did then.
No,
No, this is
No.
a study session that staff is bringing with a recommendation to privatize, but it's ultimately up to
You
the
guys,
city council.
The 5 of us.
we actually have no say in this at all.
No, that's why we're here.
And since you guys got all the forms and everything, you guys pretty much looked into it and decided already on.
No, we're just
No.
getting this information tonight.
Okay,
So we're just starting.
right.
Thank you, sir.
I literally got the contract an hour ago.
Yeah.
Now, Nathan, real quick, it says in here it's a 10-year deal. So is it a 1 year on rates and then 10 years agreement, or?
I believe the language inside is you can do an annual rate increase up to the CPI if needed, which the CPI index is usually between 1.5% to 2%, I believe.
Yeah,
So the agreement itself for services is for 10 years with the option to extend.
yeah.
But the agreement guarantees the current rate study for the 218 we've already done through June of 2025. So the first time that the resident may see a fee increase is in July of 2025, but we would go through a 218 hearing process in order to do that. So the city, under contract, would likely see an increase, whatever the CPI index is for that year. And then we would have to take a 218 to the residents in order to pass that on to the residents' rate. Does that clarify? Like, the contract for services is for 10 years, and that is separate and apart from how long they're agreeing to hold our current rates.
Yeah, I get it. I just,
Samantha Mercer, 1195 East Hanford Armona Road. Question, what happens if every employee chooses to bump? Nobody wants to go to Mid-Valley. What happens then?
I can answer that. I can answer it generally speaking. Every employee, as long as they have more seniority than another employee in one of those divisions and meets the minimum quals has the right to bump. So in theory, if every individual that works in refuse has more seniority than all the other eligible classifications, right? All the other maintenance workers in the city and all the other wastewater utility worker 1-2s, if they have more seniority than those individuals, then in theory, those individuals that currently work for refuse could stay employees of the city of Lemoore. Then Human Resources has to work with the people that are being displaced from those positions through the bumping process. That's a whole nother level of processes. And the rules are slightly different for the displaced employee, which is the person that's being bumped from their position.
So bottom line, jobs are on the line regardless. If they choose, they want to go to Mid Valley, they choose not to want to. What if they don't want to go to Mid Valley and they don't want to bump? What happens then?
So every employee with the city of Lemoore, regardless if it's this process or some other, has the right to resign their employment with the city at any time. The city has gone through the process of working with Mid Valley to offer these employees jobs through this process. If an employee doesn't want to bump to a position that's they're eligible for and doesn't want to work for Mid Valley, then they effectively resign their position.
So if that layoff, would they get unemployment benefits?
At that point, it is considered a layoff and they would be eligible for unemployment, yes.
My next question is, why wasn't this discussed at the budget meeting in September? Why wasn't this, we were talking about the general fund at the budget meeting in September. This, I know it's supposed to help the budget fund or like the general fund. I know they're enterprise. Why wasn't this discussed as like possibly one of the things to help the general fund in September?
There was one line item that said potential privatization of departments. But at that point, it was very infancy stage. We hadn't met with anybody, didn't have a whole lot going on. We privatized water 2 years ago. And that's worked out fairly well for the city. We try to make change or say where we can without impacting the service to the community.
Okay, but why was it, like you said, departments? Why couldn't you say like we were looking at refuse, we're looking at this department? Why was it left general? Because I feel like they've kind of been blindsided with letting them know, oh, hey, by the end of the year, you may not have jobs.
Because it was just a concept in September. I didn't even know if I was going to pursue it or not. I looked at this like 2 years ago and opted not to do it.
But this was an idea in September. You just hadn't gone through with it yet. You didn't know it was something you might want to pursue.
Right. This is something I thought about a couple years ago, and then I kind of brought it back out.
Okay,
Mhm.
so you knew that you maybe wanted to do this, but you just didn't put it out to the public then.
Yeah, I wasn't ready at the time.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
I'm sorry. Oh. Oh, okay. You okay? My name's Edward Miller, work for the city of Moore as the water conservation officer. And I'm also president of the GASE, bargaining unit for the union, for the city employees. And then for the past few years, the city has outsourced the golf course, LMD districts, parks, and the water department, all for a variety of reasons, whether it be for cutting costs, regulatory pressures from the state, et cetera. The cities had to do that. Most of us can understand the economy of scale and how these companies can come in and do the jobs far cheaper than what the city can spend to do these same jobs. However, what's lost in all the budget numbers is the cost of losing workers who serve the community, workers whose names you may not even know, but who have lived here most of their lives, have bought homes in towns, and have children going to area schools. They eat, shop, and spend their earnings here. Above all else, our job is to serve the community just as this very council, the police, and those that volunteer for the fire department. This is our home, and we have invested not only our lives, but our families in this community. To put it simply, when something gets outsourced, regardless of how much cheaper it may cost the general fund or how much of a better service they may or may not do, money that was paying local wages to local families, local businesses, whether it be for tires or fuel, et cetera, that money is being sent to a private entity whose number one goal above all else is to generate profit for this from the city, from the citizens of Lemoore, regardless of what is in the contract that will never change. I know there are hard decisions for the council and the city to make it in regards to the budget. I just hope the right decision is made, not just for the financial aspects of the city, but also its identity of something more than a town with a casino and a pizza cheese making factory, but Lemoore. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sorry about that, folks. Terrible getting old. Connie Wolashin, 523 C Street in Lemoore. I had a lot of questions, and now that listening to some of this stuff, it's even worse. So is the contract with Mid Valley, is that, obviously you guys just got it, so it's not for certain. But why are you talking like it is? Several of the things that Nathan said was like it's a done deal. But anyway, but I had a question about, like the fees, they're not going up until 2025. What is that? 8 months? That's 8 months. And then they have to, if Mid Valley raises their rates in June of 2025, which is next year. Oh, year next. Okay, this is 23. Okay, so year and a half. And the city is terrible about raising. If goes to a vote and the city residents vote no on this rate increase, where's that money going to come from? Because Mid Valley is going to want their money. Is that going to come out of the general fund? Anyway, so, but I had a bunch of questions, and I don't expect you to answer them all right now, but so there was 12 people that's in the refuse department now. And the equipment, they're going to buy it. Are they going to buy it at market value, or is the city going to sell it to them for $10? Which is sometimes the city of Lemoore has not sold things for what they're worth. And is the city, what concessions are they giving to Mid Valley? And okay, the 15% franchise fee, when does that start? Does that start 2025?
That would start the day of, I can answer for your question. So the franchise fee would start when the contract starts, and pretty much anything that's billed, 15% retains with the city, 85% goes to Mid Valley for the service.
Okay,
And they are paying fair market value for the assets of 1.7 million. And that money stays in the refuse fund.
okay. In the refuse fund, not the general fund.
In the enterprise fund. The 600,000 to 800,000 is above and beyond the asset value that can go into the general fund the day that the contract is signed, if we choose to do it.
Okay, so the 600,000 to $800,000, that's a one-time payment. That's as soon as the contract is signed. It's not prorated. It's a big chunk, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. And there was a couple, what is it? Because you were throwing out a bunch of initials. CPI. What is that?
Consumer Price Index.
Okay. So,
We don't set that rate. It's usually set. They usually do 2 in California, one's out of LA, one's out of San Francisco. And because we're kind of blended, I think they use a formulation of both to kind of come up with a CPI for the Central Valley.
okay. And so you, Nathan, or I'm sorry, Mr. Olson. Forgot myself.
You're fine.
You thought about this 2 years ago. What made you table this 2 years ago? And now you wanted to start. And when did the city council find out about this? You're just reading the contract today? So when did they find out? And this sounds like, this. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
we
It
let them
sounds
know
like
we're going to meet for probably 5 weeks ago.
Okay. I think that's it. So the city's not giving them any concessions, right?
No.
None at all. Okay.
Oh, my apologies. That was your 3 minutes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Richard Geesbright, city employee. Obviously, you've heard what's been said. I work in refuse. We're like family back there. We're all scared for our jobs. Why this wasn't mentioned before, and it was a 2-year thing, excuse my French, is fucking bullshit. What's gonna happen to the enterprise funds that are currently there? If Mid-Valley takes over, what happens to those funds? Do they stay in an enterprise funds? And if so, who is enterprise to take those funds? And how is taking an enterprise fund going to help your general fund if an enterprise fund, from my understanding, equivalates its own earnings like that? We basically take care of our cans, our fleet, to make sure we're in the black. I get we're a team in the city, but it doesn't feel like a team right now. And if by eliminating refuse to go to Mid-Valley, in September, it was saying our police force may be cut down in half. Are they gonna be saved? Is this really saving anybody in the city? That's my question. Thank you.
So, look, it's never ideal when you're talking about people's livelihood and jobs, but the city is facing over the next several years a major deficit. And this is just one step in a process to get the general fund solvent. So we're not laying off a bunch of first responders, but we do have an opportunity at this juncture to help alleviate some of the pain, not all of it. But this is an instance where we can make a move. We can give options to those 12 people instead of just saying, you have no options, here you go, we're shutting the door on you. We're solving for about a $4 to $5 million deficit out in 2 years. So this is $600,000 that can go into a general fund is no short order. No short, that's good money. That's $60 million worth of retail that we'd have to generate out on the street to get that same bang for our buck. So it's not ideal. Is this something I'm enthusiastic about? Not really, no. Our refuse guys do a good job. They always have. I don't get complaints on refuse, but the reality is if this goes through, the resident should not notice a change. They won't. They're going to see an increase in service. So it's not a win-win, but it does give options to people instead of, if council no votes this, refuse is fine. They're going to continue running like they run, but it will definitely have impacts on other people down the road potentially that won't have these options.
Come up here.
Sir, if I may, you actually spoke already. So if you could hold until everybody's done, and if time permits, I'll let you come back up and speak again.
All right.
Thank you.
My name is Jason Diaz. I'm an employee of the city. I'm a fleet mechanic. And to be honest with you, I watched these guys right here shake their heads numerous times over questions I've got asked. And I can tell you right now, I know plenty of people that have Mid-Valley. Even though you say the city, it works great for the city, it does not work great for the citizens. People that have Mid-Valley, when they have issues and they call them, they will not come back and take care of your cans like they say they will, because they don't have to. They don't give a crap about you. They really don't. You got 3 guys right here dressed up pretty for nothing. Literally, you're taking money out of the city. You're giving 15% to us, 85% to them. And when they decide they want a rate increase, you said it's got to go to a vote. So that 218, if we say no, they're still going to raise their rates and it's going to come out of the city anyways. So it's going to cost the city money regardless. You guys got to think about that, honestly. Quit taking out of the city and paying elsewhere. This is actually, the refuse is a enterprise fund where it makes money. There's got to be other ways you guys can cut costs. There really is.
Thank you.
If I may address that statement. Because he is correct in that if the rates increase, but we fail to pass a 218, the city would then use a portion of that 15% franchise fee to cover the extra charges. The statement that we would then be using general fund to fund refuse is accurate. The refuse fund has a relatively healthy reserve right now, but every year we're forced to buy new assets out of that fund. If at some point in the future, let's say council, votes this contract down, and the cost to provide services, even if we do them in-house, exceeds the rate that we can legally collect through a 218, because it's the same process, whether it's us or it's Mid-Valley, then the same argument is true. The general fund would also have to cover those additional charges. And at that point, there is no franchise fee to draw from. So if we go into contract negotiations, or if, our tipping fees from KWRA increase significantly, or whatever the case may be, our general liability insurance increases substantially, there is still the possibility at some point in the future that the cost to perform the service will be more than the revenue that we generate for providing the service.
Any other public comment? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Lakers. Now, when we have like National Night Out, we have events downtown where refuge will go and after the event, pick up the trash and stuff like that. Is that also in the contract? Well, they will do special events out without an extra charge. Because if not, that stuff will stay there until, they're going to be doing the parks. They'll be doing the parks also, right? Because there's cans at Heritage Park, there's cans at all the parks. What is there any caveat in there for those type of situations?
Yes, they do support the functions we have throughout town, and they also make a $5,000 donation annually to help us support those functions.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would you like to speak in the back? Okay. Any other public comment? Okay, go ahead and bring it back to council. Any questions?
I've got a couple. First, I just want to say that the reason we're having this meeting tonight is because in the past, we've always had study sessions, and then on the same agenda, we've voted. And we knew this was a big item. And so that's why we wanted to have a public meeting. So the council member said, let's have a public meeting. That's why we wanted to hear from you first in terms of what some of those issues were. So thank all of you for coming out. I think this is the most people we've had at a meeting for a while. The other thing, a couple items, is the lease for the equipment included in the agreement? I'd like everybody else just got it.
Yeah, they're gonna buy the refuse assets out from the city.
Okay. And then, how about the fleet service agreement? Is that also?
We have not done anything on that yet. We'll go into those conversations if a contract gets approved.
Okay. You guys have any kind of a timetable on that, or? Is that yeah, within a year, 2 years, or is this just?
You mean to start service or for the other agreement?
No, for the fleet agreement.
We'd go to work on it. We try to have everything in place on the tape. When and if we agree to when they would start services.
Okay. As far as all the employees who are in PERS, if you're vested, you're in PERS. So, if you hang into that, and I think PERS will even allow you to contribute to some of that. That's when you decide to retire at 55, I still think it's at PERS as the minimum. Those are your funds. You'll get that plus anything else, whether you stay with Lemoore or go to work at the base or do something else. That's still yours. The other, we're talking about 14 people. 12. I guess, I don't know if this could be done, but couldn't we take those 12 people right now and develop a profile as to an option? In other words, if I were the employee, depending upon the number of years that I had, you'd be able to tell me the number of years I have here, what positions I would be able to bump into and what my pay would be, so that when I sat down with Mid-Valley, I could look at apples and apples in terms of, what would be the better thing. I guess the other thing I have for Mid-Valley is, this seems obvious, but would it behoove you to keep our employees local? In other words, to have your employees working for you that work for us?
I can help answer that. Joseph Kalpkoff, owner, president, CEO of Mid-Valley Disposal. So the goal is to have a lease here in town. Initially at the city public works yard, and have the drivers report back to the same spot they're picking up their trucks now, and keep a permanent yard here through the term of this agreement. Initially, with some of the maintenance, we would love to have the support from the current city staff if they want to do it. If the city allows it, to do some sort of a maintenance program for small lights. It could be tires, it could be an oil change, light maintenance that occur almost every day here in Lemoore. So that's the drivers. There's no change to the structure. We can keep them on the same routes. We do know we have to add an additional route, because we're going to go from basically 2 carts a week per house to 3 carts a week per house. So there will be that additional route that we're going to have to put on the street, right, to pick the extra carts up at the same cost you guys are paying now. If I can maybe take 2 steps back, if you give me a minute. The city staff, your employees have done a great job, and I want to say that right now. It would be great for them to come on board with my company. One of the reasons that's not on this maybe privatization information is that there's a new state law that takes effect on January 1st. And that's the SB 1383 bill, right? That's been ongoing on a slow implementation throughout the state of California for the last 2 years. That the enforcement starts in January. So the state's going to come in and enforce your code. It's going to enforce a lot of other mechanisms that are in this regulation. All of these new regulations are going to require you to go to 3 carts 3 days a week. It's going to require, because there's going to be food waste in your carts now, right? You're going to have food waste January 1st. All the businesses have to subscribe to a food waste cart. You have monitoring of contamination on a quarterly basis. You have edible food recovery. You have procurement targets. You have added resources, and then you have added reporting annually to the state. None of that's contained in your current rates. Okay. So regardless, your rates are going to have to go up, whether it's Mid-Valley Disposal or the city continues to do this, or your costs will go up. Whether your rates go up or not, that's completely up to a Prop 218. So your costs will go up starting January 1st to implement this regulation. With our synergies locally, we have trucks picking up the entire county of Kings right now. We have Armona, we have Stratford, we have Home Gardens, we have Avenel. We are in Kings County. We have a market share of Kings County. The synergies that we currently have, we're bringing on to the city of Lemoore. That's why we can do this with no rate increase. We have a department already built with 18 people that are implementing 1383 up and down the valley right now. They're housed in Visalia, and they're housed in Fresno. They're housed in Kerman. We have multiple of 8 facilities. The other thing is we're guaranteeing you organics capacity for the term of this agreement. We have our own composting food waste facility in Kerman, state of the art, and we're welcome to take tour. You don't have that capacity with Kings County Waste right now. You don't have it. I'm guaranteeing it for the life of this contract. We also already we process your recycling already. We process all the recycling goes to CROD, it goes right to me and into our huge facility in Fresno. So we're already processing it. We're already partners with the city. We think we were successful 2 years ago with the city of Reedley. They looked at the same thing. They looked at a consultant come in, 38% rate increase. They were able to drop their rates by 15% when we came in. So we have a track record here in the Valley. We've done it with multiple cities. We become part of your community. That's what we do, using your current resources you have now. I'll be here for any other questions.
Okay. I've got just a couple more.
Sure.
So when does this timetable start for the employees? That's what I guess I wanted to know in terms of this process, you know.
Well, it would be if and when council approves the contract, we would probably then start setting dates for Mid-Valley to come in and meet with the individual employees on site.
Okay. But we can do some work ahead of time if that were the case, just in the event that we did something like that.
It's tough because everybody's different. Everybody has different seniority. So if all 12, HR would have to guess what the scenarios are and what positions being bumped.
Well, it's no tougher than them possibly having to decide to go somewhere else to work too. So, I mean, you know.
Well, yeah, but until we know who's going to bump and if they're going to take the position, how that affects that person, because we know all their seniority, but depending on where they go or what job they want, we don't know who they're going to bump out. I guess it'd be
Well, it's something I'd like you guys
circular
to consider,
exercise.
yeah.
I mean, we can
We're only
discuss
talking
it,
about 12 people. Okay.
but 12 could turn into 12, 20,
Oh, I understand that.
24 movements.
Yeah. I understand that, but at least they would know what their situation is. The other thing is, what does happen to the enterprise fund?
It stays intact because we're still collecting for the services out of utility billing. And I'll let Michelle take more of it, but we still have outstanding commitments through KWRA and like our old disposal site. There's some ongoing annual fees and stuff we pay for things like that. That's what that'll pay for.
Yeah, so the
But
enterprise, I'm sorry.
So, but in terms of the discretion of the enterprise fund, for refuse, it would no longer be in place.
Yes, it would. It would have to be used in refuse. It doesn't go anywhere. It stays a refuse enterprise fund.
It would continue to be budgeted in the city's annual operating budget because there are still costs associated with refuse above and beyond just the cost of, let's say, Mid-Valley's contract that have to be paid by the city. So that refuse fund stays active. So we would budget like we would every year. And some of those fees include, we have a 5-year retrospective adjustment for workers' comp, so we can't reduce those costs out of the refuse fund on day one. Certain other fees, the refuse fund helps fund the utility billing department because we will still be doing billing for refuse. And so they still have to pay their proportionate share. So because there's still going to be fees associated with that service that the city has to pay, that fund stays active.
And I would anticipate there'd be a balance to that fund.
Mm.
Yeah, okay. So, so there's an operating balance then.
Yes.
I guess the other concern I have is we keep talking about the general fund, but I'd like to know a little bit more about the enterprise fund, and then also what are some of the impacts of things like Helena coming on board? How's that going to affect the general fund for next year in terms of
so
things of that nature?
Once Helena comes on board, they're about a $40 million a year business. So at 1%, they're about 85% retail. So we're anticipating somewhere in the range of about $380,000 annually to the general fund once they're fully operational and all moved in.
Mm-hmm. And I guess the last thing I'd like to say is that, you know, we had a lot of discussions about the golf course because it was difficult to maintain. I've heard a lot of golfers complain about their scores, but not necessarily about the course. It's looking pretty good. We obviously talking about refuse, but we had an issue with water, and that's the plight of the small city and the big city. I mean, you heard the gentleman talk about what the state is doing to us in terms of fees and things that we have to focus on, and short of us raising taxes, this is how we can generate some revenue to stay here. So that's it. Thanks.
Any other comments or questions?
Yes. So let me just get this straight. The 1.7 million goes into the enterprise account to buy all of our equipment, trash cans, dump trucks, everything to do with it. And it will stay there. And we will probably have to use some of that funds annually to pay for utility billing. And it's not a lot, but it's still a cost, correct? Okay. And then the $600,000, there's a lot of numbers, so I have to try to, the $600,000 annual 15% franchise fee, that will go into the general fund.
Correct, as a receivable.
Okay. All of the equipment that we've already ordered, someone asked earlier, we have grants on them. We've checked. It's a question, actually. We've checked to make sure that when we do this, the state of California, because they love putting their hands out after they give you a grant, hey, you owe us $10, $1 million. No, that's gonna happen?
Now, to date, no city has had to pay back any of the monies they received after transferring over. Could they change a law or something? I don't know, but as of right now, that's not something we're concerned about.
How many trucks do we currently have? Do you know off the top of your head?
I got my asset list here. I gotta look. You're talking pickups included?
No, the trash trucks, the trucks that used to pick up the trash cans.
Or like the big.
The trash trucks, the ones that actually pick up the cans or pick up the dumpsters. There's two sets. One that picks up dumpsters, one that picks up the cans.
We have front loaders, rear loaders, and side loaders.
How many side loaders do we have? We'll start with that.
I'm looking it up right now.
Huh? 4. And 3 of them, I'm assuming, are broke. I'm trying to figure something out. What I'm trying to figure out is how do we go to a 3 can a week schedule as a city? That's the answer to the question? You have to add one more truck? Okay. What's a truck cost? $1 million?
400.
400? And do we have one ordered? So we do have one coming that could. I didn't hear you, sir. Okay. And I guess, Nathan, the question is, could we do this on our own? No disrespect to Mid Valley at all. My in-laws had it. I don't have a for and against. I have a personal opinion that there's 12 employees that we're going to affect in one shape or form. And that's not an easy decision at all. It's hard. But, you know.
I'm sorry. I'd like to answer your question about can we do it in-house from a monetary perspective? So when we brought the rate study to council, I can't remember what year it was now.
Before we were here, though. Stuart may have been here.
There was an extra, so we elected to keep rates based on the current level of service because there was a lot of public comment about the cost to do that. I don't remember the exact number, but in order to do weekly service in-house, it would increase everybody's rate by approximately $4 a month. And that rate study that we did was only to purchase one additional vehicle, whether that's a front, side, or rear loader every year. And so we had to buy extra in the first year because we needed an extra truck. So we're actually like a year behind. So I don't want to speak out of turn, but the answer is yes, but it would cost the residents more money to do that.
Approximately $4 a month.
Approximately $4 a month.
$4 to $6 a month.
And that was based on the rate study that was done, I think, in 2019. So,
okay,
you know, inflation.
I have notes. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
And to answer somebody's question, this is not a done deal. we knew, or I'll speak for me. I knew 5 months ago or however that he was going to, that Mr. Olson was gonna talk to Mid Valley. This is the first time, at least me, has gotten a contract in front of me. I mean, I heard about it when one of the waste refuge drivers walked up to me going into a city council a month ago that we were already negotiating with gas, which is your guys' union. To be honest with you, it shocked me a little, but that's a different story. I know they've done a lot of work in other municipalities, and I know this is this state law, what is it, 1383?
Yes.
That's a tough one. We all are gonna have to sit down at that big old steak and figure out how to eat that thing, because the governor's not giving us no money for that. It's called an unfunded liability or unfunded mandate. It's do it or else. You're gonna do it or we'll fine you. I really would like, what Mr. Gornick was saying, I'd really like to know, and I don't expect no one to raise their hand. I don't necessarily want to, I really would like to know how many are we talking about? Are we talking about one person that wants to bump? We're talking about 2 people we want to bump? We're talking about 12 people that want to bump? Because ultimately 12 people wanting to bump, Mr. Olson said we only have 4 positions. So that means 8 people in my simple math could be affected by this decision. And I don't think no one up here in the council, and no one up here, no one wants to affect 8 people at all. I can probably say unequivocally, all of us up here do not want to affect 8 people a month before Christmas or 2 months or any of this. But the hard thing is, like Mr. Olson said, our cities spends more money than we make. We spend more money than we make. We have to figure something out. And we either all do it together or we have the state of California tell us what we're gonna do. I'm gonna be honest, at this point, I don't have no idea. Sounds good. I don't know. I look at the personal side of it and I have a difficult with it. But then I look at the business side of it. I got elected to run a city or help run a city, not to do this. Now the CPI index. It's 1 year, or well, it's in this, we start in January 1st, 2024. So January 2025, we could raise it. And that's the key here, is if we do not go back and do a rate study or raise the CPI or whatever to where we can start taking more money, and they take over or they don't take over, we're gonna have to raise the rates regardless. I mean, that ship has sailed on what we're gonna have to do. Now, is it 1%, 2%? We don't know. But that's something we're gonna have to, as a family, sit down and think about this. Because we're all in this together. I don't want to make a decision. Well, none of us want to make a decision to pick 12 people, 4 people, 1 person. Take your PERS away. I'm a PERS employee. You know, I don't want to make none of that. Now, someone said something about PERS, you can continue paying when you leave. I think that's, huh?
You're vested.
You're vested, yes. Somebody said something about you could possibly continue. You can't continue to pay unless you go to a job that actually has a PERS retirement. I'm assuming the military out there has a PERS retirement, but if they don't, okay, well then you can't go out to the military and continue getting a PERS. You can keep it, yes, but I just want to make that clear. It was a little confusing to me that
I said that, maybe I was wrong, but I thought you could. contribute to your PERS. I thought you could contribute to your PERS.
I don't think you can. I'm not an
But
expert.
it's your,
Michelle's shaking her head in the background. I don't think she can.
yes or no, Michelle? Yes or no?
No, my understanding is that once an employee separates from a PERS agency, you can no longer continue to make contributions. However, you are correct that once you're vested, you can leave your funds in PERS and it will continue to accrue interest just like the rest of the pool. And you can choose to retire when you become retirement age, or you can withdraw that money and move it into a private retirement.
Now, how many, I don't know if you can answer this. You may not be able to, and Mary may throw something at me right now. How many of our current 12 employees are fully vested? Don't throw nothing
I
at
can't
me.
answer that off the top of my head.
Okay.
Sorry.
Do most of them have 7, 8 years?
It's a pretty stable department, so I would say the majority of them are vested.
Okay. So majority of you guys have some kind of thing. Give me a second, please. Do you have any questions? And I'll come back because I
do, but I'll wait.
okay. So the 3 cans, Nathan, we would have to get another trash truck. I almost said fire truck. We don't need another fire truck. We need another trash truck and then change some schedules maybe.
Yeah, we'd probably have to go to, right now, we currently do 4 tens. We'd probably have to go to 5 tens to pick up that additional can. May not need a different truck if we're extending the day to pick up the other waste. I did ask Nacho to give me a price on picking up a 3rd can. And I believe he said it would be, I'll find it here, 60-something thousand in salaries to support that 3rd can.
A year.
Yeah, that's what, but I'll find that email.
Huh?
Could you mind saying
Oh,
that
yeah.
at the podium so that everybody can hear? I apologize. And those online, we also have people.
I'm
online.
sorry I put you on the spot. I just,
Just trying to answer.
no, I know.
We could, with the staff we have now, the 12 individuals, we could pick up that 3rd can. And using the current equipment, like we have one coming, we could pick up the can. Now, do we have the support and the infrastructure that Mid Valley has? No, we don't for the 1383. We have hardworking people that care about their community, their jobs. And like I said, it's been, I've been an employee with the city for 23 years. It's been a whirlwind. And there's no time that's great to talk about loss of jobs or anything like that, but seasonal, it's bad. Like I thought I was gonna retire here. There's still options, but I'll lose money. And for most of the individuals that it's gonna affect, you're gonna lose money. You're gonna lose your retirement, the CalPERS retirement. Now, 401 is great, but I'm almost 50. How many years can I invest in a 401k and what's that gonna get me? These are hard decisions, and I'm sorry to add more to the fire, but I have to talk about it. If you guys have any questions for us, we're here to talk about it.
Are all 12 here?
No.
Okay.
Can I ask you a
Majority, yes.
question before you head back? There was some discussion back there that I couldn't hear all of that was being said over the 2 trucks that are on order. Was it is 2 trucks that are on order?
So we have an automated, which is a residential collection truck. And then we have a front load, which is a commercial, like for dumpsters and businesses, that's on order as well.
And what did you say was the combined price of those?
So it'd be approximately $800,000.
Have we already paid for those?
No.
Yeah, those would be the trucks that would be intercepted and purchased outright by Mid Valley upon delivery.
Do we have money to pay for them in the enterprise account?
Thank
Yeah,
you, sir.
They were budgeted and.
Okay.
Yes. So I found that email for, if they use a diesel automated fuel maintenance repairs, they're looking at about 45,600 to pick up a 3rd can. And if they can get it done with the CNG, it'd be about a $31,000 increase.
So I'm sorry, were you
Nope.
done, sir?
I can come back
Hold my
on.
question.
Go
Mr.
ahead,
Garza?
ma'am.
Thank you. And realizing that if this is a study session, my question would be, why the refuse department? Why are we starting here?
Because when there's services readily available to come in and provide that service. One, two, it doesn't impact the residential users of Lemoore. It actually increases the service they're getting. And the other water was an enterprise account. We've privatized that. And the reason we went out for water was with new plants coming on and the treatment certifications required by the state. We didn't have enough people certified in-house for the rate, and we tried hiring for over a year to get some T4 operators hired, and we couldn't do it. Nobody was putting in, applying, so that was why we privatized. The other enterprise funds are really the golf course that's already been done. LMDs, PFMDs, they're not enterprise funds, but they're charged off. You know, your tax roll, those have actually been privatized over the years already as well. So there's really no other department. We still have wastewater and sewer and collections, but right now, we've got the certifications we need to keep running that department. And so really that's what's left for department wise.
And when we talk about, our general fund issues, how is this gonna help solve it? I mean, is it going to have the biggest bang for the buck if we do this?
Well, it puts a dent in it, right? We're talking a $4 or $5 million opportunity. This is over 600,000. And with the one-time payment, if you approve the contract, that'll put an additional 1.1 million in the reserves upon signing the contract. Well, 600,000 or 700,000 plus the franchise fee for, if we did a half a year, it'd be a little over 300,000. So instead of ending the fiscal year this year with 8.1 in reserves, we could end the fiscal year with about 9.2 million in reserves, and then bank on an additional 660 every year. And then as new subdivisions come in, that's more ratepayers, so that would increase with the amount of new cans that get put out.
So this is basically, first part of your plan, right? There is a plan to fix our general fund if we're moving forward with these things. The only thing
Yes,
that
this is just one, this is a small piece of the
a small
puzzle.
piece puzzle, yeah. And I think that I only have an issue with it because, we've said it multiple times tonight, the impact on the employees is unknown. So that's kind of where I'm stuck, because I wish that we could say, here's what you're gonna have, here's your options, and, it gives them that reason to decide. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. One of my questions is so we have $800,000 worth of equipment on order now that we're planning to purchase. Adding that to the 8 running vehicles we have currently, our other vehicles are only valued at 900,000? Are they
No,
that
the 2 trucks on order aren't part of that.
part of that?
They're not part of that because we don't have them in our possession. We haven't paid for them, and we're not going to receive them should this contract go through. If this contract doesn't go through, then we would just pay for it out of the enterprise fund and we continue to operate. Now,
Thank
those
you.
are replacement vehicles, not
Okay.
additional vehicles.
Thank
Those are to
you.
replace aging fleet.
Will e-waste be handled also? That wasn't in our, we
I
currently do
believe so.
e-waste.
Yeah, e-waste would stay the same.
Okay. You guys had a lot of these already answered for me, so I appreciate that. What is the current cost to the general fund for refuse? Is there any employee costs that come out of the general fund? Or is everything contained in the refuse enterprise fund currently?
There's cost allocation.
The general fund does not currently pay any portion of the refuse fund. Refuse fund funds itself.
As far as risk management, as far as
Yes, that's done through the cost allocation process.
Personnel.
So the general fund pays it, but is reimbursed the proportionate share that's owed by refuse.
thank you.
Mhm.
Let's see, I think the only other question I have is, are we going to reevaluate our existing positions and pay should we decide to privatize? Because it seems like we've privatized a lot. We've gone to contracts on a lot of things. There's not as many employees being managed, or there's oversight, maybe potentially positions that we've added or had no longer necessary. Are we going to be running through all of our positions and seeing what the effects of that are in the long run?
As far as for employee retention,
No, as far as, we no longer have water, we're not managing the golf course, we're not taking care of our parks anymore. There's a lot of employees that are no longer under the employment of the city. Does that change then some of our positions? I mean, I don't have all the positions in front of me, but in public works, are all of those positions in public works necessary if we decide to privatize refuse? I mean, most of public works would now be privatized, correct?
yeah, with the exception of wastewater, which includes stormwater and collections. Correct.
Do you understand what I'm asking?
Mayor, I think I know what you're getting
Okay.
at. There is a constant analysis of the span of control on the employees necessary to perform the services, including management of contracts, right? Because that still has to happen. This particular contract, if approved, is not going to shore up the gap going into fiscal year 25. So those conversations about what other mechanisms, if any, will need to happen in order to help shore the gap will happen during the budget process. And yes, every position will be evaluated. Does that generally answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. That was all the questions that I had. Does anybody else have any other questions, comments, concerns? David, did you find some scribbles?
You're gonna like it.
Mr. Brown, you're killing me.
Gotta sit closer next time.
I'll yield 30 seconds.
Okay, if you do go, here's the thing. In the bumping process, when you bump people, maybe mid-valley, I know these people will not be, because people get bumped, right? Well, some of these people's gonna get bumped, may not be qualified refuse drivers. But maybe mid-valley, since the public works operators already, and maybe they got Class B licenses, we don't know, because that's probably a prerequisite, right? Or maybe you got a training program. Maybe they will pick these people up. Okay, so we just don't push them out on the street.
I see what you're
Maybe
saying.
they'll pick them up because you're gonna look for good employees, and you know you got good employees. You know, I mean, try to find somebody to come to work nowadays, right? And now that's a true statement. What's your attrition rate? You know where I'm going, boss, you know?
Yeah, we're in the same boat as everyone. And when it comes to finding employees, our goal is to put a package together that the refuse drivers are going to want, because we need them too. And so we want them. That's our goal. Everybody makes a personal decision. We want them to make the right decision for them. But our past experience, we've debriefed on employees too that we brought in, so we know what works and what doesn't work and what they value. We had a very good experience the last time we privatized an operation, and a lot of those employees came out later and said, I actually like this better. Again, everyone is different, but that's been our experience. When it comes to other employees, we have a lot of positions. Those may not be necessarily the city of Lemoore, because we want to keep the Lemoore drivers in Lemoore and reporting and maintain that continuity. If there was other non-driver positions, we have other things that
Training program.
we do. Yeah.
And I apologize, but it's very important. So if only 6 drivers come over, you still short 6 or 7. If you got 6 possible candidates, those people could possibly come into your training program, be trained up, and they're local. You don't have to, it's possible.
Always, yes. And that's a goal. And that's what we try to do. And I think, again, that's one of the benefits to having a company where we are on a much bigger scale. We have a lot more of these positions, a lot more opportunities to create efficiencies and provide more support for not just the city, but also the employees that are working here.
Thank you, sir.
You may want to stay up there. So I just thought of something, not to tell you what to do. I'm sorry.
I'm happy to.
someone asked about, the complaints. Now, it's gonna be twofold that all you, if I have a complaint, not as a city council member, but as a city citizen, would I call the city or would I call Mid Valley? If we decide to do this, who would I call?
So if you call the city, we'll have a transfer line that we will then take the call and transfer it to Mid Valley, or they can call Mid Valley direct.
And then is there gonna be, I'm not saying this is gonna happen, it was a question someone asked, and so I wanna bury the horse. In the landfill.
That's illegal.
1383.
If a citizen does not like the answer from Mid Valley and they call back to us, we will have some mechanism, either in your office or somebody's office, to be able to fix that possibly, or at least
Yeah, I've got all three of these gentlemen's cell numbers, and
I have two of them. So-
again, I don't know where some of that comes from, but when I've talked to other city managers, they have been more than pleased with the service. And, one of them actually lives in Lemoore. She's a city manager in another town, but she always says how very responsive and engaged they are in the community. And they've even had events where they've forgotten to notify Mid Valley and called them like that afternoon, and they bring out all the cans they needed for that service. So I'm getting very good feedback from my counterparts in other cities.
And she did pretty good on the Nextdoor app too. Defending it.
We have multiple ways to get in contact with our customer service. So we have decentralized customer service. So there's customer service in Visalia, Kingsburg, Kalinga, Fresno, Kerman, everywhere. Those people live and work where they're at, and they're familiar with the routes. Online, there's a chat box open from 8 to, I think, 7 o'clock to 5 o'clock. There's a portal where you can actually submit an email on that point. There's a phone number. We have the city will have direct lines to us via email and text and phone. We're not perfect. I'm going to tell you this right now. I mean, we make some mistakes once in a while. I think it's how we correct those mistakes and how fast we correct those mistakes is what's set us aside or apart from maybe from other companies around here. We do what we say, and we say what we're going to do. So it's on the record at 27 cities throughout the valley that they've checked with. So again, our goal is to keep the operation identical the way it is with the staff, reduce some routes, add some services that are being required by January 1, and get the city in 100% compliance with the state regs. And we've done it everywhere else. We can do it with you guys.
I have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
I have heard that the people that use you in the county had a significant rate increase recently. You do know, you work there. Obviously.
I do.
What the reasoning for that significant increase was?
Yeah, two things. Your CRA bill went up, so CRA raised their rates on you guys. Did you raise
for those
King's Waste
King's
Recycling.
Waste and Recycling, the
So they-
transfer station on Highway 43.
They increased the trash, the disposal. I'm required to take it there per the county agreement. So they increased the trash, they increased the recycling, and they increased the green waste. All three commodity streams. And they sent us a letter after it happened that they did it. So we added an increase to the county.
That's like tipping fees. Normally, they're called, right? Yeah.
They're called tipping fees,
Tipping
processing
fee, yeah.
tipping fees now.
That entire increase was the tipping fees?
Now, are we allowed to take our recycling or any kind of trash outside of the county? In the presentation, someone said, I don't know if it was you or the other ones.
We have the ability if they can't take it. That's correct. We currently process your recycling right now. It goes, your collection, at King's Waste. Your collection vehicles collect it here, take it to King's Waste. King's Waste delivers it to me. And then the green waste is the same thing.
Okay.
It goes, I think, out towards Avenel.
I want to ask a question. I get this call about usually in October, November, depending on how cold it gets right away, but I know I can guarantee at least 3 calls from residents in my district want to know who's going to pick up my damn leaves. And that becomes an issue in terms of, you know, some of our residents like to just do what we used to do in the old days, just leave them in the street and the sweeper will come by and pick them up. Or put them in the green can and put them away. So,
Your green can will be picked up every week now. So right now it's twice a month.
Okay.
The capacity will double. Hopefully that solves it. There's also a free drop-off program that will happen in the fall locally at a park or at a city facility or multiple ones.
Yeah. But that also handles our compost requirement as well. Right. Which is, we're basically out of compliance with that.
So no leaf pickup, right, in the near future.
Just use cans, that's what I'm gonna tell
Green can.
them.
We used to have a leaf
Yeah.
pickup
Yeah, machine.
machine that vacuumed it up.
They probably still got it. Maybe you can sell it to these guys.
Yeah,
You want to buy it?
no. The issue with the leaf pickup, why we went away from it is we are not a transfer station. So what the city used to do is take the leaves out to vacant land, let it dry out, and then we would disc it into the ground. Well, that is not legal for us to do that. So anytime we fill a vessel, a trailer, which is like every couple blocks, we would be required to drive that all the way to King's Waste and Recycling to empty it. At that point, it's no longer cost-effective, feasible, efficient in any which way. That's why leaf collection stopped a couple of years ago. We put it out.
So since I did open up round 3, did you have something else?
Should I say, Connie Walashin. This $1.5 million that they're gonna pay for the equipment, how many pieces of equipment are they gonna pay? Or buy? I'm sorry, how many pieces are they gonna buy? $1.5 million sounds like it's pretty cheap for all of the equipment that
I believe they
have
said there
so-
were, go ahead.
That would be the, let's see here. That would be approximately 12 big trash trucks. Multiple trailers, multiple half tons, but in total vehicles, it's 19, 12 of which are the big trucks, 7 would be smaller pickup trucks or trailers. And then they're buying 559 commercial bins, the 1 and 2 yard dumpsters, and they're picking up an additional 19,500 carts. And our initial costs on the asset list was about $3 million for all the vehicles.
Wow.
$3 million was the vehicle.
Yeah, that was all the refuse trucks. The refuse trucks, when we bought them, the most expensive one on the list was 299,000. Nope, sorry, 335. That would have been a 2020 Peterbilt front loader.
Sounds very cheap.
So we're taking a depreciated value. It's more than 50% of the life. 2 of those trucks are on their way out.
I just want to add some data to that. Some of these trucks are over 15 years old. So just like if you value your own personal vehicle for sale, it's age of vehicle, miles, etc. So they're not giving us direct purchase price. They're giving us market value of the condition of the vehicle at the time of transfer of sale.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Final public comment. Mr. Brown looks like he left, so I will not be opening it up for a 4th round.
Go ahead.
Hello, Council, Mayor. Those of you out here, I'm the mayor of City of Coalinga. but I'm here as a citizen to give you guys some insight on Mid-Valley. This company is extremely family oriented. They do take care of their employees. The employee will never need or want for anything. If something breaks, they have either fixed within an hour or they bring another truck in. That way the position is never sitting stale. If something gets damaged, they replace it immediately with no additional cost to the citizen whatsoever or the city. They take care of everything themselves. So if you guys are worried, I understand the job thing. They will absorb as many as they can. And I know they'll probably find a way to absorb everybody if they have to. That's just the kind of company they are. It may not start out here right away, but you'll be close. And they'll make sure that when the time comes, you'll be able to come back. In whatever position you desire. They will take care of you. They do help with training as well. In every aspect of their company. They do their own mechanics, so that cuts cost. They do their own repairs, cuts cost. The company absorbs it all. The citizens, the city does not absorb any of it. So I would recommend switching over to them. Our city's been using them for many, many years. I've only been on council now for 3 years and mayor for almost a year. And I've dealt with Joseph, his father, JK and Isaac for the last 8 years. And I have never seen one issue. I have never seen one kickback. You ask them a question, they'll do everything they can to answer that question and make it right. Even if it doesn't seem like it, they will make it right. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, don't get any ideas. This is the last one.
It's Susie Van Willis again, and I don't envy any of you at all. Lemoore's our hometown, and it breaks my heart to think about losing these employees. My husband actually went to school with one of them, at least I know. And but I also need to remind you guys that we're dealing with an issue that affects the entire city. 12 people are very important in their livelihoods, but the service, I mean, from what I see, if I didn't know anyone would lose their job, I would jump at this. Because I hate this can this week, this can this week. They're bringing things we used to have or don't have closer that will help a lot of people who can't necessarily get out to the dump. I just really hope you guys are able to work something out so our employees get to stay or go wherever they want. And I mean, you guys are dealing with the state of California and all its ridiculousness. It seems to me we should be able to find a way to work it out so our refuse employees can get a fair shake or a decent shake. If we could jump through California hoops, I think we could, between you guys and you guys, we can make something happen. But I don't envy you guys at all. I wish you all the best of luck, and I would like the 3 cans once a week.
Thank you. There was another hand in the back.
Wait, we have one more.
Can you come to the microphone? I'm sorry. We want to make sure everyone can hear you.
Jason Diaz. All I want to say was there was a previous employee that works for us now, and I'm pretty sure he took a pay cut to come to us because it's a better deal for him because they're not family oriented. He has to take care of his kids and wants to do sports with his kids, and he wasn't allowed to do that because the hours they work them and they don't get the option to take off. So that's an employee that used to work for them, and he's with us now. And I'm pretty sure he took a pay cut to come to us. So if that explains anything.
Thank you. And go ahead, Sheila.
Sheila Taylor, addressing the last 2 comments, maybe you could answer this. Do all refuse employees that work for you work 5 10-hour days? No. Okay, because that was the option that we saw. So is that not true? And can you explain how that works? And is there another option?
So we're a big company. We have 200 routes that we pick up every day. We have residential routes, we have commercial routes, we have roll-offs, we have transfer trucks, multiple routes. These guys build routes based upon where they're at, the location of the dump, and we make them 8 to 9 hour routes. Sometimes they'll go to 10 hours. Some routes are longer, some routes are shorter. Again, it's my job to make sure that the employees have the right job and fits them, right? So if they're in sports, we'll usually sponsor the sports team as well. I did 56 sports teams this year. We help sponsor the league. So I'm a family member. I coach baseball. I've coached it for 15 years. I leave on Tuesdays and Thursdays during the season at 3 o'clock to get home and coach. Same thing on the weekends. So it's a part of what we do. That we allow them to have a work-life balance. Was it like that 15 years ago when I started, when I was on a truck? No, we ran. I think what we've seen over the change of the workforce is you have to change some of your rules and how you deal with employees. Our employees are the number one piece of our company. If we don't have them, we don't have a company. And I realize that.
Our employees currently are on 4 10-hour days.
Sheila, can you speak in the microphone?
I know your question.
Okay, so our employees are currently on 4 10-hour days. Is that an option?
So it will, probably not, because our whole company would have to go to 4 10s. Our whole company is 5 8s right now. And you can't have separate areas. This is a California law, not a Mid-Valley law. There's a lot of regulations that we deal with, you guys deal with as well when it comes to the state regs. We will go to 5 8s. There will be some routes that maybe are on the commercial side that may go 9 hours. I think we can get everything done in 8. But again, there's a lot of employees that want 9-hour routes too, right? They want 10-hour routes. They want to get a little overtime. They want to make that extra money. It's, you run 2 hours a day of overtime. It's equivalent to a 25% increase in your pay over a year. So it makes a significant difference. Some people want to take the minimal work, get the job done, go home. They have other opportunities or requirements with their families. We understand that. We have the flexibility to build routes, custom routes, and that's what we've done. That's what we do.
Any other public comment? We'll go ahead with the online public comment. Hopefully we can hear them.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
I just had one quick question. I'm just wondering why council has never asked, or at least as far as I'm concerned, or as far as I know, when, how, and why our budget became so unmanageable. I remember Lemoore had a balanced budget for many years. Wasn't too long ago. What happened and why? Thank you.
So the definition of a balanced budget is cost of service, plus revenues coming in, plus your reserves. So our reserves have been healthy, but we've offset the cost of increases by using our reserves. Currently, the presentation I did to council a few months ago, our expenditures are growing at 12% a year. Our revenues are growing at 8% a year. So we brought this up now because we have about 2 years to go out and look for solutions. We did go after a tax measure pre-COVID. It failed. And we raised it back then. Fortunately, through the COVID, the city did receive ARPA funding, which would have been equivalent of a 1-cent sales tax. And that helped carry us a couple extra years. But when we started rolling out budgets for this year, or last year, I'm sorry, the fiscal year we're currently in, we knew that we had an immediate need over the next 2 years. So that's when we started talking to council and going to work on how to shore that up. In the interim, we have cut positions, held positions, have different management types, wear multiple hats. So we cut where we could, with the hopes that the public wouldn't see that. And I think we've achieved that, and we might have done too good because everybody, I don't know if anybody's really been affected up until this point by any of the cuts we've made to keep the city functioning at a high level. So, but it has been an issue for many years, and that's what started the sales tax conversation. I believe it was 4 years ago.
And just for the record, we did ask that question, and we did ask for a special meeting, which was held on August 29th. If you want to go back to the YouTube and kind of watch that meeting over to get a little bit more information, but this is kind of an ongoing conversation on what we can do to get us back there.
And just for knowledge out there, the city receives about $3.3 million a year in sales tax revenue. 3.3 million. We see about another 400,000 in TOT. That's your transit occupancy tax from the hotels. So that is what we control and what we can leverage to come in. So that's just a little over $4 million. Just public safety, police and fire costs over $10 million a year of our budget of 17.4 million. So over 10 million of that is public safety. The other 7 million we spend annually is on streets, maintenance, buildings, repairs, things of that nature. So not a whole lot of money there. Not a whole lot of money.
Any other online comment? No. With that, we'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting. Just personally, I'll make myself available after this meeting if anybody has any questions, comments, concerns that they don't want to state publicly. So.
And also, I have an open door policy. My cell number is public. So if anybody wants to get in touch with me, feel free to stop by anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.